How's it going, everybody? Jared Lutz here, back with another Diablo IV news update video. We've got a lot to talk about today as the first ever Blizzard Campfire Chat livestream just ended earlier today, and with it came a bunch of info on what the devs are currently working on in response to community feedback for the game. These Campfire Chats will be semi-frequent live streams where the devs kind of relax and just chit-chat about the game, about popular community topics and what they are working on. The developer update live streams like the ones they were doing prior to launch will still be a thing, and these will be the live streams where new trailers are dropped and seasons are talked about. The next one being in July, where Season 1 will be announced. So with that being said, let's jump into what we learned from today's Campfire Chat livestream with Rod Ferguson, Adam Fletcher, Joe Shelley, and Tiffany Watt. First off, they mentioned that a really big patch is coming very soon. We've heard about this patch before. Adam had 13 pages of just basically patch notes and info on what this patch will contain. So there's a ton of stuff coming soon. Obviously, they couldn't touch on everything in this single live stream, but yeah, lots happening with this upcoming patch. First thing mentioned in regards to what this big patch will address is dungeon XP farming. If you've been paying attention to the recent hotfixes, most notably the last 4, they've all been nerfing enemy density or elite enemy density in certain dungeons because players have found that farming specific regular dungeons is the best way to optimize getting XP. Blizzard does not want farming the same normal easy dungeon to be the optimal way to gain XP and level up. They want nightmare dungeons to be the best source of XP because they are highly replayable and offer up variations of dungeons through their modifiers and tiers, as well as being the sole way to level up your glyphs. With all this in mind, they are adjusting nightmare dungeons in multiple ways. Firstly, nightmare dungeons are getting a flat XP increase. Every monster and elite inside of nightmare dungeons will be giving more XP when defeated. It's important to point out that the monster density within nightmare dungeons is not being increased, just the XP each monster gives. They are also changing sigils so that when they are used to activate a nightmare dungeon, you'll be able to directly teleport to that dungeon, removing all travel time. So you'll no longer have to take like a 1 or 2 minute horseback ride to a dungeon that doesn't have a waypoint near it or something. They want to remove travel time because it does affect optimizing your XP per minute or XP per hour or whatever. They are trying their best to get these nightmare dungeon changes added to the game before Season 1 begins. Personally, I think all of this is exactly what the game needs. Maybe I'm in the minority of people who don't want to run the same regular dungeon over and over and over again solely because it's the best way to get XP. I think that's super boring. I've personally been doing nightmare dungeons pretty regularly anyways, so I'll take an increase in XP, sure. Moving on to Season 1 info. When Season 1 does begin, which is planned to be mid to late July, they reiterated that if you've completed the campaign already once, you won't have to do it again to play the seasonal content. Also, you won't have to get any Altars of Lilith again that you've already gotten, and you won't have to uncover your map again, thank the Lord. So any renown that you've obtained via Altars of Lilith and map exploration will transfer over to your seasonal characters and any alternate characters you create. Whatever areas on the map you've uncovered will also be uncovered when you start a new season or when you create a new character. If you found all the Altars of Lilith and completely uncovered the map, this will result in you having 2 tiers of renown rewards ready to claim for each region as soon as you begin in a new season or begin a new character. Having to uncover the map again was one of my biggest complaints about the game, so I am very happy that I'll never have to explore this entire map again because man, it is a big time sink. You will, however, have to grab the waypoints again and everything else for renown, and all these side quests will reset. They might look at not resetting the side quests in a future season, but for now, every single season, they will reset. All of these changes should be ready to go for Season 1. Alright, here's a big topic. Gems cluttering the inventory. Right now, you've got 7 gems with multiple different tiers that all take up separate slots in your inventory and stash. People don't like this. I agree. It's very annoying when 1/3 of my inventory is essentially always gems. This issue is being addressed. They're working on a system that will change where gems are placed. This change, aimed for Season 2, will put gems into your materials inventory versus into your loot inventory. So basically the same inventory where you see things like veiled crystals. Big change. Everybody wanted this. No negatives here. Speaking of materials, right now there's caps on materials where you can't get over 10,000 veiled crystals, for example. They spoke on how there's really no reason for these caps to exist, so they're going to be increasing those caps before Season 1. Then the topic of elemental resistances came up. Long story short, elemental resistance in higher world tiers are pointless because they just don't help enough at all. You're better off ignoring elemental resistances and instead focusing on armor and damage reduction literally all of the time. In order to make elemental resistances affixes viable or worth anything in endgame, they are targeting a change that will land with Season 2 that will rework elemental resist in a way that makes them not completely worthless. We'll see how that works out, but no real details were given, so we don't really know what to expect here. Then some hardcore issues were addressed, mostly things regarding server disconnects or bugs that result in players instantly losing their hardcore characters at no fault of their own. They mentioned a couple bugs like dying during teleport or dying when you're supposed to be immune. These will be fixed very shortly, but for server disconnects specifically, they have a system they're working on that should add a layer of disconnect protection for hardcore characters. Currently in Hardcore, there's a scroll you can get called the Scroll of Escape. This scroll lets you escape at any time from a dangerous situation. The change that they are making is that if the game detects that you had a server disconnect, it will automatically consume that Scroll of Escape, and when you log back into your Hardcore character, it will be safe and not dead. This protection system is planned to roll out around Season 2. Some other small bug fixes that are being looked into and will be addressed in the upcoming big patch. World boss caches. If you've killed a world boss and it dropped a cache that you can't open because it dropped at a higher level than you for some reason, that is currently a bug and will be fixed soon. For some reason, druids are seeing a lot of barbarian specific uniques drop instead of getting druid uniques. This is also a bug that will be fixed soon. They also mentioned that if you do get a unique item for a different class than what you're playing, that's not a bug. You can expect that to happen from time to time. Apparently, druids are just getting barbarian uniques very frequently. This is definitely on a case-by-case basis because I play a druid, I'm in World Tier 4 now, I've gotten like 10 plus uniques and I haven't seen a single barbarian one. They also quickly mentioned that more social features are being looked into, stuff like being able to group up with randoms to run dungeons, maybe like some kind of in-game LFG stuff. They're looking into adding those social features and more as time goes on. And last but not least, there are tons of stability and performance fixes for PC coming with the big patch, so that's always good. We love to see those. Then they jumped to some community questions from Twitch chat. Someone asked if we'll ever have the ability to directly teleport to friends without having to go to a capital city first. To this they said, maybe in the future, but it's not something they're looking at changing anytime soon because it's not that big of a priority in the grand scheme of things. Then there was a question about whether or not we'd see buffs to resource generation. To that, Joe Shelley said that in the upcoming big patch, there are a lot of buffs coming to a lot of things, and that certain builds that struggle in the resource generation field can look out for buffs in that regard. He also pointed out that it's very tough to buff resource generation in general because if you have tons of easy resource generation or it's very easy to build into resource generation, then there's really no trade-offs and you'd just be able to spam resource spenders without having to worry about resource, which completely negates that entire system of the game. I know a lot of people don't like the gameplay loop of having a resource generator and a resource spender because the loop for most builds is generate resource, spend resource, generate resource, spend resource, and that's it. But making resource super easy to generate would make that loop not a loop and even worse. They did mention that they will be adding more character customization stuff, things like gear for transmog, hairstyles, colors, markings, etc. The collection of customization options will grow season over season, and eventually they'll add the ability to change your hairstyle and other things whenever you want. And then as far as some quality of life stuff goes, they mentioned we can expect lots of quality of life changes over the course of updates, things like expanding upon the journal UI to show more things or more info like completed side quests, etc., as well as a search function in your stash, and more are all things that are big possibilities as they're looking into quality of life updates all the time. And that does it for all the info we learned from today's Campfire Chat. Almost everything here is good changes, good insight into the devs' thought process on things, on feedback that the community is throwing their way. This addressed a lot of the big complaints that I've personally seen around the internet since launch. Yes, there's a lot of other stuff, things they very well might be addressing in this big upcoming patch. Like I said, Adam had 13 pages of stuff that all revolved around this patch, so there's going to be a lot of stuff changing very soon. Some of which will probably alter the meta a bit, as lots of buffs are apparently on the way. Anyways, that's it for this video. I'll leave the link to the Campfire Chat live stream down below if you want to watch it for yourself. I'm also finally working on multiple other videos right now, some guides, some tips and tricks. I'm going to be doing a video on my druid build. I want to do a like and dislikes video about how I feel about the game now that I've hit World Tier 4. So yeah, you should start to see a steady stream of content from me starting this next week, and I'll obviously be covering any news on the game as soon as that news breaks. So subscribe for more Diablo 4 content. I'll have a lot coming in the near future. Thanks for watching, and until next time, see ya.